It looks like Sunday we are going to be, the government will be shut down. The Christian devils that own or think they own the U.S. government, and they do own it as long as there is a punk ass like Kevin McCarthy as the titular Speaker of the House. He's not. And as long as the Christian fascists who would identify themselves, if you would ask them, as, no, I'm just a Republican in Congress, continue to act like the cowardly lumps of nothing that they really are. So it might be a good idea to prepare for it. I don't know how we prepare for it, but it might be something to do. It's less than a week away now. And over this weekend, Biden and other administration officials, particularly Pete Buttigieg, Secretary of Transportation, stepped up their warnings of what's going to happen if government closes. And the adult leadership in this country, not these scummy, filthy miscreants, these Christian fascists like, well, you know who they are. Not what they're doing, but what the adults in the Congress are trying to do is to figure out a way to avoid this. Anyway, the most noticeable speakers, I think, were Biden and Buttigieg. They both made public calls for the Republicans, the Christian fascists, to resolve their differences before next Sunday, when federal funding is scheduled to lapse. Any call from a Democratic office holder to these Christian fascists to cut the shit and start acting like adults is a waste of breath. Christian fascists are, by their very nature, by their very religion, they're babies. They're little children who cannot make any decision on their own. They have to be told by the great spook in the sky what to do in their moments of so-called prayer. I prayed for it, and then God told me what to do. Oh, for God's sake. So for Buttigieg or Biden or anybody, you, me, to tell these miscreant son of a bitches who claim to be Republicans to act like adults is a waste of time, waste of breath. It's a waste of everything. One thing that the Christian religion teaches its more extreme adherents is don't think, don't logic, don't reason, don't use common sense. Just put all of your faith in something called, dare I say it, grace or leadership from on high. Oh my God. Deep breath, Malloy. Anyway, the responsible people in government, the few that are left, are noting that a shutdown would mean that members of the military wouldn't get paid. There's going to be disruption in air travel because of the air traffic controllers would be put in a situation where, well, they wouldn't be paid. All sorts of programs that safeguard the public would be closed down. Yet, you know, Food and Drug Administration, all these regulatory agencies that this filthy dumpster dweller Steve Bannon would like to see abolished, all of these organizations, all of these government regulatory agencies would be closed. And the Christian terrorists, they don't give a shit. As a matter of fact, people like Gates and Gosar and the rest of these filth, this is what they want. They want chaos. They want destruction. They want people wandering the streets, mumbling to themselves, not knowing what to do. This is what fascists always count on. And Christian fascists are the worst of the lot. They're the ones that can do the most damage. And I'll get to that in a moment, what the orange bastard is calling for and what a certain member of Congress is echoing his call. Anyway, Biden at a Saturday dinner for the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, he said, quote, a government shutdown could impact everything from food safety to cancer research to Head Start programs for children. End quote. Yeah, all of it. But you see, that's the thing. Anytime one of these Christian fascists, anytime you hear one of them talk about how they are pro-life or they believe in Jesus, you ought to walk up and just slap them right across the face like your grandma would have for lying. Or better yet, just go out to the bush in the backyard and cut a willow branch and and whip their asses. They don't care about children. They don't care about safety. They don't care about logic or reason. All they care about is their sick, fucked up agenda that has its roots in a perverted form of Christianity and a definite form of fascism. You put them together and you have the worst possible governing philosophy that a human could come up with. Religious fascism. Now, it doesn't have to be just Christian fascism. Look what Netanyahu is trying to do in Israel. Look what Modi is trying to do in India. Look what, what's his name, Erdogan is trying to do in Turkey. But religion and fascism taken together is an absolute guarantee of death and destruction. Biden added that, he said this, let me quote him directly, quote, funding the government is one of the most basic responsibilities of Congress. It's time for Republicans to start doing the job Americans elected them to do, end quote. Mr. President, I'm sorry, I don't mean to correct you, but a lot of people who voted for these Christian fascists were like the Christian fascists themselves, who are now office holders, not the least bit interested in doing the job that is normally assigned to a member of Congress. What so many of the Christian devils who vote for these Christian devils, you notice the balance there, what they want is destruction because they are ignorant son of a bitches who are wandering this country spreading lies, deceit, poison, dishonor. These are our fellow Americans, I am sorry to say. Look at some of the polling that was released over the weekend. The ABC, I think it was ABC Washington Post poll that shows, it either shows Trump ahead of Biden or Biden and Trump running neck and neck in these polls. Now, I can sit here and say what I really feel about polls. I think they're all bullshit. But that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what I say. The way media puts these poll results out there for everyone to see and talks about them as if they were gospel, so to speak. That's the part that to me is very alarming. But anyway, I digress. Yesterday also, Pete Buttigieg, Secretary of Transportation, warned that training for new ATCs, air traffic controllers, could cease. During a staffing crunch, it's hard enough to get these men and women anyway. And the fact that there are so many openings in air traffic controller positions, it's already contributed to travel delays. And if the government shutdown is fulfilled by these Christian demons, then air traffic controllers who are working now would not be paid. But they don't care. A couple of plane crashes, which the ATCs would not allow to happen because they're professional, unlike these filth, this vomitous scum that are these Christian fascists that are office holders in the U.S. Congress. Buttigieg was on CNN's State of the Union, and he said, quote, they, referring to the air traffic controllers, they are under enough stress they're under enough stress as it is doing that job without having to come into work with the added stress of not receiving a paycheck. And he added, quote, House Republicans need to come to their senses and keep the government running. Mr. Secretary, it is impossible for these filthy Christian devils to come to any senses. They don't have sense in the manner or in the way you're describing it, Mr. Secretary. They are senseless. They operate on a bunch of perverted religious fascist doctrine that tells them all they have to do is be as fucking evil as they want to be, And their demonic God will love them all the more because in being assholes here on earth, they are fulfilling, Jesus, I don't believe I'm saying all this. They are fulfilling what their demonic God wants them to do. Have I mentioned lately how much religion just makes me want to throw up blood? I mean, when it's injected into governance or into the public sphere, and I don't care what the religion is, but since I live in this country, I have to deal with this insane bullshit Christianity. But no matter what country it is, when whatever the dominant religion is starts to take hold of the government, well, that's the end of democracy, or whatever loose interpretation of the word democracy happens to be applicable to whatever country we're talking about. A lot of countries struggle towards democracy and make it maybe a third of the way, and then the religious bullshit slams down and it all stops. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.